Welcome students to our online classes. Myself Ashwini Honkarse is going to teach you subject science standard 9th lesson number 4 structure of the atom. Structure of the atom. So let us start with index. So in this lesson we are going to study Dalton's atomic theory and its drawback, subatomic particles of an atom and their discovery, Thomson's model of atom, Rutherford's model of atom, Bohr's model of atom, arrangement of electrons in an atom, orbit, valency, atomic number, mass number, isotopes, isobars and isotones. So let us start. So students, as we already familiar about matter, that is matter is that which occupies some space and have some mass is called as a matter, right? Then what are the examples for that? Chalk piece, bangles, duster, whatever present in our surrounding, that all called as a matter. And we also know that all matter was made up with a small particles called as a atom. They called as a what? Atom, or we may tell it as a parmanu, right? So atom, how it looks like? It looks like this. To get this structure of the atom, many scientists work very hard. So let us study about the scientists, what they concluded, what discovery they did, what problems they faced to get this structure, right? So let us start one by one. So atom, as we know that atom is also a thing that which occupies some space or mass, right? Then John Dalton is a very famous scientist. He given us Dalton's theory. He given us what? Dalton's theory. He studied about the atom and he given us the Dalton theory. So let us study what his theory is concluding. Right. So in 1803 he given the Dalton's atomic theory, and according to Dalton's atomic theory, he said that all matters made up of small units called a atom. Whatever things present in our surrounding, they are made up with a matter, and that matter is made with the atom, right? And the second thing what he said, atom is invisible and indivisible. What he said, matter is invisible and indivisible means what? Matter is the smallest particle. We can't divide it in further. We can't divide it further. Right. So next what he said, atom can neither be created nor be destroyed. Atom can neither be created nor be destroyed. Then again he said what? Atoms of an element are alike in all aspects. Atoms of an element are alike in all aspects. For example, if I have an atom of hydrogen, if I have an atom of hydrogen, the particles which are present in this atom, that all made up with a hydrogen only. They all made up with a hydrogen only. If I will take a carbon particle, then all the particles which are present in that atom, that all made up with a carbon only. They all are same. Next, what is said? Atoms of different elements combine in fixed whole number ratio to form a compound. Means the atoms of different elements, they combine with each other and they form a compound. They combine with a whole number ratio to form a compound. So as Dalton's given that much theory, then also there will be some drawbacks that Dalton failed to explain some points, or whatever theory he given, in that some points proved wrong. Yes, some points proved wrong, and Dalton's failed to explain why they are wrong. He not have any reason. That's why Dalton's theory, we may tell that there drawbacks, that is they are called as a drawbacks of Dalton's atomic theory. So what are the drawbacks? What Dalton said, that his theory states that atoms are indivisible. They are indivisible, but we already studied that atom is contain some other particles, right? We already know that it contains nucleus, it contains electrons, it contains protons and neutrons, right? Together we will call it as a atom. Here the Dalton's theory fails, right? What he said, it is indivisible, but it is already divided with a subatomic particles called electron, proton and neutron. Electron, proton and neutron. So next, again what he said, that his theory state that all atoms of same elements have same masses, but it is now found that atoms of same elements can also have different masses. For example, isotopes. So what is isotopes, that we are going to study, right? So what Dalton said, whatever things or whatever atoms are present in a same element, they all contain same masses. But it is proved wrong that, and we proved that if the element contain, even though atoms are present, they may contain different masses. They may contain different mass. Again, Dalton's theory states that atoms of different elements have different masses. Then what he said, the different element have different masses. But again here his theory failed. If you take carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, yes, so these have different mass, right? But somewhere some elements have same mass. Here also Dalton's theory failed to explain. He failed to explain, or his theory proves wrong over here. Next, we are going to study about discovery of electron. So who discovered the electron? A great scientist, J.J. Thomson. He discovered the electron. So what he did some arrangement. So what he did, he took the bulb like structure tube and a big bulb like a tube, and he named it as a cathode rays discharge tube. What he named, cathode rays discharge tube. And he did the arrangement like this. He connected a voltage and a pressure maintaining tube, as well as cathode and anode. Cathode and anode. When he passed the gas in high voltage, in very high voltage, so here it is a voltage generator, so he maintained in this device very high voltage, and he passed the gas through this tube. He observed nothing that time. He observed nothing. Then what he did? He maintained very low pressure. He decreased the pressure in this tube. Then again he passed the air, and then he observed that some air, some light is blinking over here. Some light is blinking over here. To conclude that light, to conclude that light, he made this anode tube as perforated. This anode as a perforated means he put hole on this anode. He put some hole on this anode, right? Then afterwards he took the zinc sulfide layer at the back side of anode. He took zinc sulfide layer. So zinc sulfide is a fluorescence material. It is a fluorescence material means what? If anything will comes on struck on this, then it will shine. It will shine. So this is called as a fluorescence material, right? So he used that fluorescent material called ZnS or zinc sulfide, and then again he passed the gas in this tube, right? In this tube. Then what he observed? He observed that some rays are generating from this cathode, and they are creating a green light. They are creating a green light. So he concluded what? The rays, if they are producing from cathode, then they are called as a cathode rays, and the cathode is negatively charged, so these are called as a electrons. So these are called as a electrons. In this way J.J. Thomson's generated electrons. I hope you understood, right? Then so let us see When anode is made perforated and covered with a fluorescent material called zinc sulfide, which glows on strikes of any material at backside of anode. Next, what is cathode ray? A stream of electrons leaving the negative electrode in a discharge tube. They are called as a cathode ray. Or we may say that when electric current was passed through a gas at low pressure and at high voltage, some rays were emitted through the cathode and were traveling towards the anode are called as a cathode rays, consisting of negatively charged particles, and that charged particles are called as a electrons. What we may call it as electrons, right? Now next we are going to study about discovery of protons. So who discovered the protons? E. Goldstein. Scientist E. Goldstein. So how he discovered the proton? Scientist E. Goldstein, he was very curious to know that how J.J. Thomson discovered the electrons. He is very curious and he is back to study how he did all. So he used all this arrangement. He used the same cathode rays arrangement, and he also maintained very high voltage and very low pressure, and he passed the gas through this device. He passed the gas through this device. Then he observed the same thing, that the green light will be glowing here, some rays are glowing generating from this cathode. That all he observed. Then he concluded that electrons are there, but with that he observed something else. He observed what? That the rays are coming over here, but some rays are moving back. Some rays are moving back. So then he concluded that these rays are not generated from this anode. So we may not call them as anode rays, right? As the rays are generated from cathode, we named them as a cathode rays. But here the rays are generated from the same cathode and going back to the cathode. So here what will happen? If the rays are going back to the anode, means going back to the cathode, means they are attracting towards the cathode, and cathode is negatively charged. Means what? That rays which are going back to the cathode, that definitely contain positive charge. They are definitely contain positive charge, but they are not generated from the anode, and so we can't call them as a anode rays. So he given the special name to them, and he said that they are canal rays, or we may say them as a canal rays. Right? He given the name as a canal rays. Then he given conclusion that when air will be passed through this tube, when air will be passed through this tube, that time the cathode rays will be generate, and they get mixed with this air, and they ionized. The negative charge will be ionized in this gas, because the positive charge are present in this air. Whatever atoms are present in this air, they get ionized with the negative charge, and they get positive charge. That's why they get back to the cathode rays. They get back to the cathode because they get ionized, and their negative charge will be converted in the form of positive charge, and they again attract towards the cathode. That's why, as they are positive charge, he given the name to them as a proton. He given name to them as a proton. Okay. Now see, as the cathode rays emits from cathode tube, they get ionized and termed as a canal rays. They starts to move towards the cathode as these particles possesses positive charge, so they were named as a proton. Now, as Thomson generated or discovered the electrons, he given us a model, and his model got a special name called a plum pudding model. What is name called? Plum pudding model. So according to him, what he said, that the atom is look like a plum cake. It looks like a plum cake. Whatever brown color you are seeing, in this way that atom consists of positive charge. The whole atom contains positive charge and the electrons are present anywhere. The electrons are present anywhere. So the whole atom is made with a positive charge and somewhere the electrons are present. So he given the model like this, means according to him the atom is positively charged sphere. It is a positively charged sphere and in which the electrons are present at certain places like a plums in a pudding. But again there is a question. See, if the negative charge will be there less and positive charge will be there more, then atom should get whole positive charge. The atom should get whole positive charge. But we already know that atom is stable. It is not contain negative charge or a positive charge. It is whole stable. Another question again, that how much positive charge are present that may cancel with a negative charge, right? But here this is not happen. So here Thomson's model failed to explain the arrangement of protons and electrons. The arrangement of protons and electrons or positive charge and negative charge. Let us see what we say. That what is the drawback of J.J. Thomson? That it could not explain the distribution of charges and stability of an atom. It could not explain the distribution of charges and stability, means why the atom is stable. It is not contain positive charge. He can't explain that. Yes, so this is the plum model or cake model. What he explained, that a whole atom is a positive charge and this all negative charge are present somewhere. So next is Rutherford scattering experiment. So Rutherford is another scientist who also did this experiment for atom, right? So what he did, he took a one fluorescent screen material. He took the fluorescent material and one thin gold sheet, thin gold sheet, and he took the alpha rays particles, alpha rays source. So alpha rays are radioactive rays. Alpha rays are high speed radioactive rays, right? So what he did, so he passed the radioactive rays through this gold foil. He passed that alpha rays in the gold foil. Then he observed what happened, how the rays are moving. Yes, so he observed what? Let us see. Most of the alpha particle passed straight through the gold foil without any deviation. Means what? When he passed the alpha rays, they are moving. If it is a gold foil, they are moving straight way. They are not getting any deviation. Right? Then again he observed what? Some of alpha particles were deflected by the foil by some angle. Means if it is the foil and when we pass the alpha particles, somehow they are deflecting, somehow, not all. Then interestingly, 1 out of every 12,000 alpha particles appeared to be rebound. Means what he said, when he passed the alpha ray, 1 of 12,000 is get rebound, right? Then, so by observing all these points, Rutherford concluded that most of the space inside the atom is empty because most of the alpha particles passed through the gold foil without getting deflected. So what he said, so if you take an atom, so most of the part of this atom is empty. Most of the part of this atom is empty. That's why when we pass the alpha particles, so most of the alpha particles are moving straight without any deviation. So again what he said, very few alpha particles were deflected from the path, indicating that the positive charge of the atom occupies very little space. So in that a very little space is there, there is a positive charge, and that's why some rays were deflected. A very small fraction of alpha particles were deflected by very large angle, indicating that all the positive charge and mass of the gold atom were concentrated in a very small volume within the atom. So, where there is a positive charge, there is a very small volume. That's why the alpha particles get rebound. Okay, then so on the basis of Rutherford, he given that how the electrons, protons, and neutrons are arranged. How they are arranged. So, Rutherford, on his discovery or on his experiment, he given the model of an atom. And what he given? There is a positively charged center in an atom called the nucleus. So, who given the concept of nucleus? Rutherford. Rutherford given the concept of nucleus, and he said in the center of the atom there is a positive charge, and that is called as a nucleus. That is called as a nucleus. Nearly all the mass of the atom resides in the nucleus. So whatever mass of the atom is there, that almost mass is present at the center. Then what he said? The electrons revolve around the nucleus in well-defined orbits. So just now we see the structure of the atom here, that how the electrons are revolving in definite manner. They are revolving around the nucleus. They are revolving around the nucleus. Right. So again what he said, the size of the nucleus is very small as compared to the size of the atom. So why he said like this? Because when he found that the how the alpha rays are moving, that most of the alpha rays are getting, they are going in a straight way, right? And very few alpha rays are there, they are getting deviated and they are getting rebound. So what he concluded, that the size of the nucleus is very small as compared to the size of the atom. Again what he said, that alpha rays particle scattering experiment is given the idea of the atom with a nucleus and electron. With that, he given some other points. So what he said, nucleus of an atom is positively charged. What he said, whatever atom is present in that nucleus is present, that is of positively charged. That is of positively charged. Nucleus of an atom is very dense and hard. Very dense means it contains mass and it is hard. That's why whenever he pass the rays, they are not passing through it. They are getting deviated or they are getting rebound. Right? So it is hard. Nucleus is hard. Then nucleus of an atom is very small as compared to the size of the atom as a whole. Model of an atom is also called as a nuclear model of atom. So why he given the name nuclear model of atom? Because he found the nucleus and he given the name nuclear model of the atom. So drawbacks. So where the Rutherford's model or Rutherford's theory failed to explain, where he is lacking behind. So see what happened. Rutherford said that the atom is present in this way. Nucleus is present at the center and electrons are revolving around this. Electrons are revolving around this. But in science, there is a one theory that is called as a electromagnetic theory. That is called as a electromagnetic theory. So according to electromagnetic theory, whenever the particles are moving around, whenever they are the particles are moving, they lost their energy level. They lost their energy level, and as they lost their energy level, they comes near the particles. They comes near the particles. As they are moving, they will not revolve in a same manner. They lose energy and they get attract towards the center, and at last they will be disappear. But according to Rutherford, the electrons are continuously moving. The electrons are continuously moving. So Rutherford failed to explain. He's failed to explain that the electromagnetic theory, it is not applicable over here because it is also contain negatively charged particles and positively charged particles, right? So it is the drawback of Rutherford that the atomic model of Rutherford failed to explain the stability of electron in a circular path. The radiation of energy would result in the electron losing energy and finally collide with the nucleus. So what we said, that when the electrons will lose its energy, it will be lose the state and finally it will be mixed with the nucleus. So it will not happen in this atom, right? Then this would mean that the atom would become highly unstable. What it indicates? It is highly unstable. So Rutherford failed to explain this in his atomic model. So this is the thing, that how the electron is going to be rebound, or it will be collide with this nucleus, right? The next scientist is Chadwick. So Chadwick is discovered the neutron, right? So Sir Chadwick, he discovered the neutron. So he's also a great scientist. He's continuously studying about the structure of atom. He was back to study the structure of atom, and when he divide that atom, he found that there will be a something difference in mass of the atom and number of the atom, in the mass of the atom and number of the atom, because we should know that how many positive charge will be there in the atom, that much only negative charge should be present, that time only the atom should be stable, right? But when he found that the mass and number of electrons, or number of elements, or number of the number of subatoms and their mass is somewhere different, they somewhere different. But while while doing the experiment, he also concluded that most of the atom was empty space with its mass concentrated in tiny nucleus. So all whatever Rutherford discovered, he got all the points. But then what happened when he divided, or the disintegration of atomic, he kept seeing that atomic number atomic number was less than atomic mass. The atomic number was less than atomic mass. So if you take helium, we may say that if we will take the helium, how we are writing that atomic number, we are writing at the down, that afterwards we are going to study, and atomic mass is at the upper side. So we already know that how many protons are present in the atom, that much electrons only present, right? So its mass and the atomic number should be same, the mass and the atomic number should be same. But here in helium, the mass atomic number is 2, the two atoms of helium is present, but their mass is 4. So here there is a variation of number 2. So he concluded that rather than proton and electron, there will be a some other thing is there in the atom. Rather than proton and electron, there will be a something and which don't have any charge, but it contains some mass, and that he given the name as a neutron, right? So in this way neutron was discovered. So next we are going to study about Bohr's theory. So Bohr is a very famous scientist and very great scientist. So what he did, he want to overcome from the problems of Rutherford model, because he got all the things whatever he's agree with the Rutherford, and he got the same model as Rutherford, but whatever drawbacks are there for Rutherford, he want to overcome for this all. So he studied and he given the he given the drawbacks, he overcomes the problems of the Rutherford model, and he concluded that, and he given some theory, some sentence about the atomic model, atom model of the atom. And what he said, that the atom is electrically neutral. What he said, the first point, the atom is electrically neutral, means as we are agree that the how many protons are present, that many electrons are present, right? The atom is electrically neutral. In center of the atom, nucleus is present. As Rutherford said that nucleus is present, yes, right, he's agree with that. Then in a nucleus, proton and neutrons are present. So what he said, at that time the neutrons were discovered, and he said he's agree with that, the variations of mass and electron, that atom number. So he said what, at the center of the nucleus, protons and neutrons are present. The protons are positively charged particles and neutrons have no charge over there. Then what is said, outside the nucleus, shells. So this is a very important point, what he given, what Bohr given us, that outside the nucleus, shells or energy level designed as K, L, M and are present. So what he said, if there is an atom, at the center there is a nucleus, and nucleus contain proton and neutron. Surrounding that, some energy levels, or we may call them as a shells, means they contain their own energy. These shells contain their own energy, so we are calling them as a energy level. And what names we given to them? The first level as a K, second as a L, third as a M. Like this we given name to them. So what he said, that outside the nucleus, shells or energy level designed as a K, L, M and are present. Then next what he said, in shells electrons are revolved. So whatever electrons are revolving, they are revolving in this particular shell. They are not leaving their own shell. They are negatively charged. So electrons are what? Negatively charged. Each shell has fixed amount of energy, so he is not forced on electrons, but he forced on these shells. He forced on these shells, and he said that these shell contains a particular amount of energy. That's why the electrons, even though they are rotating continuously, they are not leaving their path. If the shell is present at the first, electrons are present at the first shell, they are not leaving the first shell. So they contain a fixed amount of energy. Electrons never lose or gain energy when they are in their own shell. So if the shell is present in first or K, then they will not lose energy. So electromagnetic theory, what it said. So when the electrons are revolving, they will lose their energy, and they get collide with the nucleus, right? So what he said, that these shells contain particular amount of energy, that's why the electrons not lose the energy, or they will not get any energy. The number of electrons in each shell is determined by Bohr-Berry rule. So he given a very important rule, and he said that number of electrons, we may conclude that in the first shell how many electrons are there, second shell how many electrons are there, third shell how many electrons are there. So there is a question, right? So Bohr solved this question, and he given a rule, that is Bohr-Berry rule, right? And he given the rule what? 2n square. He given the rule that 2n square. For example, suppose if there is a first shell, if there is a first shell, then first shell, so K is called as a first shell. If K is a first shell, then fill the value of K in n. So what will happen? So 1 square means 1 square, 2 ones are 2. So how many electrons will be there in the first shell? There will be 2 electrons, right? If you take L shell, if you take the shell number L, so this is the second shell, then fill it. 2, the place of n, fill it with the 2, 2 twos are 4 and 4 twos are 8. So totally how many electrons will be filled in second shell? There is 8 shell, right? Now next. So this all are scientists who given us the theory and they helped us to get the structure of electrons. So at the last Bohr, sir Bohr given us the model of the atom, right? This is the model of atom and he given us that how the shells are arranged, how electrons are arranged, how the nucleus is present, why the electrons are not falling collide with the nucleus. So all was cleared by the end of Bohr. Okay, so let us study some definitions. In that, first one is atomic number. So atomic number, what is atomic number? The number of protons in the nucleus of an atom is called as a atomic number. So how many protons are present in that nucleus is called as a atomic number. So one point you have to keep in mind, that how many protons are there in that atom, that many electrons are also present. How many protons are present, that many electrons are so present. So as we studied in the last lesson, electronic, that periodic table. So this periodic table is very important to you. So here the first one is hydrogen, H, right? So you have to be practice this periodic table. It is not possible to you to remember all this, but then also minimum 20 you have to remember their atomic number, their symbols you have to be remembered. So let us study. So these are 20 elements, first 20 elements of periodic table with their symbols. So first one is hydrogen, indicating with the H, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron. So keep in mind while writing the symbols, the first letter is always capital. The first letter is always capital. If it contains the second letter, it will be a small letter. So this is the way how to write the symbol, and it is very important you have to remember these 20. So if you remember it like tables, then it is very useful to forming a chemical reactions. I hope you are going to practice them. Next, we are going to study about mass number. So what is mass number? The mass number is defined as the total number of protons and neutrons in an atom. So we may call the number of protons and neutrons. So that is the nucleus. So we already know that at the center there is a nucleus and it contains proton as well as a neutron. It contains proton and a neutron. So it is also called as the mass, the number of nucleons. The number of nucleons. Nucleons means the number of protons and neutrons is called as a nucleons, right? So the mass of proton and neutron is called as a mass number. Is called as what? Mass number. So how we are writing the atomic number and atomic and mass number? So in this way, if the atom is indicated at the center, the atom, suppose for example, chlorine, if you take hydrogen, okay, hydrogen, what is the mass number, what is the atomic number of hydrogen? That is 1. Okay, so if you indicate the mass of hydrogen, then if it is 1, then write it as a 1. If it is 2, write it as 2, right? So in this way we are mentioning. Suppose helium, if you take helium, the helium is the second atom in the periodic table. Its number is 2. Its atomic number is 2 and its weight is, its mass is 4. So in this way we are writing. Suppose if you write helium, then if you write 2 and 4 over here, that is also correct. So this is the correct way how you have to mention the atom, how to mention the atom. Now next we are going to study electronic configuration. So electronic configuration means what? First of all, suppose if there will be a hydrogen, what is the atomic number of hydrogen? 1, right? So if this is the atom, yes, if this is the atom, and already we studied that how many atoms are present in the first shell, second shell, third shell. So, right, first hydrogen, no doubt there will be a first shell only hydrogen will be present because it is of first element. If you take helium, so it is also, it contains two elements, atomic number is 2. So how many electrons are present? 2. It will be there only. So this shell is over now because we know the rule of 2n square, right? 2n square. Then if you take the atomic number of lithium, so lithium is of 3. It is of 3, right? So if you take the atom, the first nucleus is there, and then first atom, first shell contains the capacity of first shell is 2, right? The K will be take as a 2. Then next will be L. So third electron, where it will be go? It will be go in the next shell. It will be go in the next shell. So keep in mind that the first shell, the capacity of K is equal to 2 because of 2n square rule. Yes, then L is equal to 8, like this. M is equal to, then keep 3 over here, 9, 18. So like this is the capacity of electrons of each shell. Okay, then also, while writing or while filling the electrons, we have to fill, the first shell will be filled with a 2, second shell will be filled with a 8, and third not 18 but it fill with the 8. It fill with the 8. Why? Because here there will be a electron configuration chart. This is the electronic configuration chart. So in this way, we are filling the electrons. So first S means the first electron in the first shell, then second, then third, then the third electron will be here. This is the first electron, this is the second electron, this is the third, then 3s will be the next. Then when 3s will be filled, then 3p will become. Understood? So when 3p will become, then 4s, then 4s, afterwards 4d, after is 4d. So what is this SP, SPD, F that we are going to study? But you keep in mind, one S means the S value is 2. 2 means the capacity of S is 2 electron, P is the 6 electron, D is the 10 electron, and F is 4. So when we will fill the first shell, when we will the first shell, it contains 2 electrons, that is S is equal to 2. Then P, it contains 6 electrons because 6 plus 2 is 8. When we fill the 8 electrons, again the S will come, P will come. So in this way we are filling. You don't mind about this because you are going to study about this all in higher class. This is just a basic concept to you. Keep in mind that while filling the electrons, we are following the rules, that is 2, 8, 8. Then we are going to fill the fourth shell of 2. Then we are coming to the next one of 10. Okay. So if you take the iron, we are going to fill that 1s square, that iron 1s square, 2s square, 2p5. So in this way we are filling the electronic configuration. So what is electronic configuration? The electronic configuration is the distribution of electrons of an atom or molecule. The distribution of electrons, atom or a molecule on the atomic orbital. So how we are arranging the electrons on that shell, this is called as a electronic configuration. You just remember the definition of electronic configuration. Next we are going to study about valency. So already we are familiar about valence shell. In last year we studied about valence shell. So outermost shell of that atom is called as a valence shell, right? When an atom we will take the outermost shell, the important name we given, right? That is called as a valence shell. Suppose if you take a sodium, sodium contains, what is the atomic number of sodium? That is 11. It is 11. So first shell is filled with the 2 electrons, then second shell is filled with the 8 electrons. So 8 plus 2 is 10, and the third shell is filled with the 1 electron. So third shell is the last shell for the sodium. So last shell is called as a valence shell. It is called as a valence shell. So valency means what? Valency is the combining capacity of an element. It is the combining capacity of elements. So that last shell, how much electrons it will take or it will give. It will take or it will give. That is called as a valency of that atom. That is called as a valency of that atom. Okay, it is the number of electrons of an atom of an element can gain or lose, is called as a valency of that particular atom. The valency of an atom is equal to the valence electrons if it is 4 or may less, right? So valence electrons means what? The electrons are present on the valence shell, is called as a valence electrons, right? So in the valency we have two types. One is electrovalency and another one is covalency. One is electrovalency, another one is covalency. Let us study one by one. So what is electrovalency? So electrovalency is nothing but the transfer of electrons from one atom to another with the formation of ions. So ions means what? They may have a positive charge or they may have a negative charge. Right? So how it is? Now we know that whatever atom is present, that is stable. It is stable, right? The number of positive charge are equal to number of negative charge, right? So if the atom will lose the electrons, means electrons are going, so negative charge will be less, means the atom get positive charge. Yes. Then if the atom will get the negative charge from any other atom, if the atom will get electrons from any other atom, then electron number will be increased than proton, right? Means the atom get negative charge. Understood? Say once again, I will repeat. When there will be atom is there, it is neutral because the positive charge and negative charge are equal, right? So when this atom will give the electron to any other atom, so the negative charges will be decreased, means the atom get positive charge. And if the atom get atom get any electrons from any other atom, then it get extra electrons, right? So the number of electrons will be increased, means the atom get a negative charge. So when the atoms get positive charge or negative charge, they are called as ions. So they are called as what? Ions, right? So let us study. Valence the transfer of one or more electrons from one atom to other with the formation of ions, right? So let us see the example here. Sodium. So already we know that what is the atomic number of sodium? That is 11. What it is? 11. So it contains 11. So the outermost valence shell, how many electrons it contains? It contains only one electron. It contains only one electron. So if you take chlorine, so how many electrons chlorine contains? What is the atomic number of chlorine? It is of 17. Okay, the atomic number of chlorine is 17. So see the electronic configuration. First orbit, the first orbit will be filled with 2 electrons, right? It will be filled with 2 electrons. The next orbit will fill with 8 electrons, right? So 8 plus 2, then 10. Then next capacity is of 8 electrons, right? So here 2 plus 8, that is 10, and 18. So at the outermost contain how many electrons? 17, sorry, 7 electrons, right? So the first orbit contains 2, second orbit contains 8, and the third orbit contains 7 electrons. So To become stable, it needs one electron. But sodium contain one electron. That the outer orbit of sodium, the outer orbit of sodium is need 7 electrons because the stability of electrons is of 8, but sodium have only one electron, right? So how much it needs? It needs 7 electrons. But now tell me, to get 7 electrons or is easy, or to lose one electron is easy? No doubt, to lose one electron is very easy, right? So what it will do? Sodium will give its one electron to chlorine. It will give its one electron to chlorine and it will get positive charge because it lose the electrons, right? It gives its electron to chlorine. And what chlorine will give? It is also unstable here because it needs one electron, that it becomes stable, right? So it will take the electron from the sodium. So its electron number will be increased than proton. So it will get what? It will get the negative charge, right? So now the sodium will get the ion, that is positive charge, and chlorine will get the negative charge. So they will get the ions. They will convert as the ions, right? Similarly, if you take calcium and oxygen, they will share their electrons and they will also get their ions. Now, what is covalency? Covalency means that a sharing of electrons and they get pairs. They get pairs with each other, right? Suppose nitrogen, if you take, it shares its electrons with the oxygen and it will get a pairing. The number of electrons pairs an atom can share with the other atoms. The atom will share its electrons and it will get the pair. The atomic number of nitrogen is 7 and oxygen is 8. Its atomic number is 7 and oxygen is of 8, right? So what will happen? So 8 electrons means oxygen needs 2 electrons and nitrogen needs 1 electron, sorry, 3 electrons. So what they will do? They will share their electrons with each other and they get pair. They get pair with each other. So that is nothing but covalency. So here if you take the hydrogen, example of hydrogen. So one hydrogen contain only one atom, one element and one electron, and here another hydrogen will get one electron. So they, what they will do? They will share their electrons. They will share their electrons and they will get pair and they will exist in H2. Right? Even chlorine. Chlorine need one electron and that one electron pair and they will here one, this is also stable and this is also stable and they get pair. Even oxygen, right? They will also get pair. Like this, that is nothing but covalency. So valence shell we already studied, that the outermost orbit of the electron and outermost orbit of element is called as a valence shell. Suppose if is the sodium's, just now we studied that it it may exist with the three shells because the third shell contain one electron, right? So this shell is called as a valence shell of this particular element. Now valence electrons means electrons present on that particular valence shell is called as a valence electrons, right? Now we are going to study about isotopes. So at the beginning of the lesson we studied that how Dalton's failed because of isotopes, right? So now we are going to study what are isotopes. So what he said that whatever particles are present in that particular atom, they are same. So isotopes are those that even the particle is there, suppose atom is there, but their number is different, they are different. Suppose isotopes are variants of particular chemical element which differ in their neutrons number. So even the atom is there same, suppose hydrogen is there, but it is differ with the neutron number. But in general, that isotopes are not having any particular name, but in hydrogen we have the names, that is protium whose neutron number is 1, deuterium, whose neutron number is 2, and tritium, whose neutron number is 3. Right? So here the hydrogen contain only one electron, one proton. Then also some hydrogens are exist which contains 2 neutrons and 3 neutrons. So they are called as isotopes. If you take carbon, carbon also contains some isotopes, and their neutrons are differ from 14, 13 and 12. Okay. Now next, even chlorine is there, that also contains some isotopes. Now next is isobars. Isobars are the atoms of different chemical elements that have the same number of nucleons. They contain same number of nucleons. Correspondingly, isobars differ in atomic number, but they have a same mass number. So, isobars are those which contain same mass number but differ in atomic number. Suppose if you take carbon and nitrogen. So, if you see in periodic table, the atomic number of carbon is 6 and nitrogen is 7, but their mass number is same. Their mass number is same. So they are called as isobars. What they call as isobars. Now next. So there will be a difference between isotope and isobars. So isotopes have same atomic number. Isobars have different atomic number. Isotopes have different mass number. Isobars have same mass number. Number of proton is same here. Number of protons are different. And isotopes occur at same place in periodic table, but isobars occur in different places in periodic table. So next we are going to study about isotones. So isotones are those atoms having an equal number of neutrons, but they are differ in atomic number. So they are differ in atomic number. For example, if you take oxygen, nitrogen and carbon, their atomic number is different. Carbon is of 6, nitrogen is of 7, oxygen is of 8, but their neutron number is same. They contain same neutron number, but they differ in mass also. You can see the mass. The carbon contain 14, nitrogen 15, oxygen 16, but their neutron number is same. So if you compare the carbon with the nitrogen, the proton, even the proton is different but neutron number is same, and the electron also differ. So they are called as isotons. Thank you.